Welcome to the Membership Guys podcast. Kick-ass advice and tips for membership site owners.
Welcome everyone to episode 85 of the Membership Guys podcast. I'm your host Mike Morrison, and this is the show for anyone looking to run and grow a successful membership website. Thank you so much for downloading this latest episode. Always appreciate you choosing to spend a little part of your day with me, and hopefully I can make it worth your while by dispensing proven practical tips for membership owners. So, today's episode, we're talking about problem members. How do you deal with problem members, and how do you face a situation where you might want to kick somebody out of your website? So the first thing you need to ask yourself, honestly, is this member really a problem? Or is it just a case of you don't like them? There's some sort of personality clash. They've been rubbing you up the wrong way. You don't have to be friends with all of your members, and as your membership site grows, there's more and more chance that you'll have personality clashes with some of the people who join. It's just unrealistic to expect that when you have hundreds and hundreds of members, you're going to gel with each and every one of them. As you get more and more people in your membership, there will be more times where someone is posting who you just don't connect with, or to you, they just seem a little bit odd. Maybe their sense of humour's dry. Maybe they're very blunt and direct and you're not a big fan of that. But if this person isn't negatively affecting the experience of others, then they're not necessarily a problem member. It's just a member you don't particularly like. But if they are causing problems, if you've had complaints, if they're triggering arguments or offending people, maybe they're posting offensive or inappropriate materials, then you've got a problem. And you're going to have to think about how you actually deal with them to get them to either change their behavior or kick them out of your membership. Now, it's important not to overreact. If somebody's stirring the pot a little bit, or if a discussion gets heated, you don't want to come down on them like a ton of bricks and start banning people left, right and centre. You don't want the sort of membership community that is a totalitarian regime where people are scared to express their opinions or scared to be passionate about what they're there for. And in some markets, those sort of passions are going to be inspired just by nature of the topic. But there is a definite difference between people who are just passionate and expressive and people who are a toxic element to your membership. The approach that we recommend is to have a two-tier strike-based approach and have this as an internal yardstick for figuring out how to deal with these kind of situations. Again, it's not the sort of thing where you necessarily want to lay down these really tight, strict rules on your community, because that can have an adverse effect on how people interact, how people behave. And chances are, if someone's worried about breaking the rules, then that might actually stop them from contributing or stop them from engaging as much. So with this kind of approach, we're talking about a two-tier strike-based approach. Just keep that internal and use that as your own guideline and the guideline for staff or moderators who you may have helping you out on how to deal with these kind of situations. So the first tier, it really relates to the type of situation you have, the type of issues. If it's a case of a member who is causing friction in your community, they're rubbing people up the wrong way, they are causing offense, they're starting arguments, and they're generally just being a little bit unpleasant, then approach them with a two-strike approach. So strike number one, you warn them. You contact them privately, and it's always better that this is done privately rather than having drama play out on your forum, because that's not going to reflect well on you or the member. Contact them privately, let them know in no uncertain terms what the situation is, be clear about the issue, and make sure they know that you're not happy with it, that it's not an approach or an attitude that's going to stand, and that if there's a problem again, the next step will be that they'll be removed from the community. So if it is just someone being a bit unpleasant and causing friction, give them that warning, that's their first strike, and let them know that second strike, they're out. However, if this is a member who's actively harassing or threatening other members, that's stealing or ripping off your content, or that's posting extremely inappropriate materials on your site, then instantly remove them. That's not something you can tolerate in your community, and so rather than giving them a warning, because that kind of behavior isn't deserving of a warning shot, you get rid of them right away. Shut that down. Those people can be extremely toxic. They can cause you to lose members, and depending on what they're actually doing, especially if they're threatening, abusing, harassing members, that can land you in hot water. So you need to shut that down. So if you're actually issuing a warning, so if it is someone on their first strike, just fully explain the issue. Don't enter into an argument or be hostile. Don't be accusatory or, stoke the fires and potentially cause an even bigger problem. Make sure that they just know that your policy is first strike, you make them aware of the problem, you let them know it's not acceptable from your perspective, and that the second strike will be removal. Be clear in saying that it's not something you take pleasure in, it's not something you want to happen, and your hope is that just making them aware that there's been complaints or that there's an issue will be enough to get things back on a positive track. Definitely approach it with a positive mindset, because it may well be that this person just doesn't realize how they're being perceived. People have all sorts of different styles, all sorts of different attitudes, and what we see as something that is a negative, or even what other people will see as a negative, that person may actually think they're just being funny. It may just be their way, maybe they just don't realize that they're causing problems. So don't go in there with hostility. Go in there with a positive outlook, and genuinely approach it from the mindset that you would love to turn this around and make this a positive and have that person contribute in a far more positive way in your community. But on the back of that, what I would definitely say is keep an eye on their behavior after you contact them. Don't allow this private communication to devolve into an argument or mudslinging or a he said, she said, or if you tell them there's been complaints, don't allow them to demand or get the names of people, especially out of you who's complained. Just make it clear that this is a situation, this is our reaction to it, this is what happens next. We don't want that to happen, and that's the line drawn. You're not entering discussion, you're just letting them know how it is. But you want to keep an eye on how they then behave in your community. If you are using something like ActiveCampaign or Entreport or Infusionsoft where you have site tracking enabled, then just take a look. What pages are they going to? If suddenly you give someone a warning and then you see that they're going through every single piece of content on your website and it looks like maybe they're downloading everything or they're copying everything and they're planning on running off, then that might prompt you into taking some sort of action. Now, if you are removing someone completely, so whether it's strike 2 for someone who's just been a problem element, or whether it's an instant removal when someone has clearly crossed the line, our advice is to cancel and remove their access before you email them to let them know you're cancelling them. Because what could happen is if you contact them and say there's a problem, we're going to remove your access, is if they happen to be online when they get that, and they act quicker than you, they could start causing problems, whether that's posting stuff in your community, whether it's downloading everything, whether, there's all sorts of different things that could happen. So cancel and remove access to your website before you actually let them know that that's happening, just to safeguard yourself from any potential fallout. Now, if these guys are paying you on a recurring basis, cancel their subscription, both within your membership plugin and, if possible, within your payment processor, whether that's Stripe or PayPal or what have you. If you have the ability to cancel it within your payment processor, so there's no chance that they'll accidentally be rebilled later on. You may also want to consider refunding their most recent payment. If someone's a monthly billed member, then again, just refunding their monthly payment. Sure, it's a little bit of a financial hit, but that just limits the chance of any sort of blowback or of this turning into a case of them essentially saying, well, I paid for this access and you're restricting it from me, so, you're breaking the law or I'm going to take action. If you've refunded the entirety of their most recent payment, then there's not much they can say in response to that. You will likely get some people who come at you and say they want the whole of the sum of what they paid you so far refunded, but honestly, they don't really have a case for that if that's what they request, because they will have had full access to what they paid for that time. The refund of the most recent payment is purely to save you any hassle rather than doing it because you should do it, or you need to do it, or you're required to do it. Now, if someone is paying you on an annual basis, then again, you might want to think of doing a pro rata refund. So that means if someone's been a member for 4 months, but they paid for 12, it may be necessary to take that hit and refund them for the remaining 8 months. Again, to reduce blowback, to reduce any question over whether there's a legal issue about you not providing what's been paid for. Now, yes, that's a financial hit, but ultimately, the cost of not taking action could be way, way greater in terms of lost members, in terms of potential headaches that come later on. We would say to ensure there's something in your terms and conditions for your membership that makes it clear that you can revoke access at any time. Just so that if that's questioned or if that's brought up, you've got something to refer to as well. Something you may want to keep an eye out for, especially within the days and weeks after cancelling this member's membership and removing them, is keep an eye out for any suspicious enrolments. Any names that seem a little bit off, email addresses that seem a bit off, people who are behaving oddly in terms of how they're using your website, because you can't put it past some people, especially if they're behaving in such a way that's had them banned from your site. You can't put it past them to try re-enrolling or resubscribing under a fake name. Now, it takes a particular type of person to waste their time in doing that, but I'm sure we've all encountered people like that in various walks of life. So again, it's just something you might want to be aware of. I've just said when it comes to removing people from your membership, there's definitely a far greater chance of fallout than if you have simply warned them about their behavior, but it's far preferable to keeping that kind of toxic element inside your membership. You need to remember this is your website, your business, your livelihood. You need to protect it and you're well within your rights to do so. It's so crucial to maintain harmony within your community, and to do that, you've got to remember you set the rules, you set the terms, and it's important that you take action when you have people who want to disrupt that harmony and threaten your business and your livelihood through their negative behaviors. So hopefully, if you've had a situation where you're troubled by a problem member, you're not sure how to deal with it, hopefully this gives you some guidance, it gives you some food for thought. I'd love to hear from many of you who have dealt with this kind of situation before and have had it go particularly well, or you feel you've handled it well, or maybe you've tried handling it a certain way and it's blown up in your face. Let me know, shout at me on Twitter, twitter.com/membershipguys. Make sure you're in our free Facebook group. Let us know in there if you're in the group at talkmemberships.com. I'd love to hear your stories about dealing with difficult or problem members in your own membership. That's it from me for this week. Thanks again for downloading the podcast. I really appreciate the support, the love, the feedback, the social interaction. I love to hear from you guys on Twitter, on Facebook, and all that. So keep it coming. And I'll be back again very soon with another episode of the Membership Guys podcast. If you've enjoyed today's episode of the Membership Guys podcast, we invite you to check out the membersiteacademy.com. The Member Site Academy is the essential resource for anyone at any stage of starting, growing, and running a membership website. So whether you're still figuring out what your idea is going to be, or whether your website is already up and running and you're just looking for ways to grow it and attract new members, then the Member Site Academy can help you to get to the next level. With our extensive course library, monthly training, exclusive member-only discounts, perks and tools, and a supportive, active community to help you along the way with feedback, encouragement and advice, the Member Site Academy is the perfect place to be for anyone looking to start, manage and grow a successful membership website. So check it out at membersiteacademy.com.